I want to bring in Joe Lindsley now. He's a journalist and editor of Lviv Now. He is in Lviv, Ukraine this evening, or it is the morning in Lviv. Joe, as always, appreciate your time. I just want to start with what you're hearing and seeing tonight as Ukraine is under a national state of emergency.
Yes, thank you, Marnie. It's quite, I have to say, it's quite bizarre. And I would say the warnings that I hear from friends I've known for many years who are experts, who are Americans from Washington, is the most serious it's ever been and the most dire. And for example, I was sitting in a cafe tonight, and it was a contrast with what I see on the ground. People are calm and confident. Life is continuing, but the warnings are like I've never seen before. And we've sort of been in a whiplash, especially since, for many weeks now, but especially since Monday. Monday was the moment when Putin gave that speech that really began to concern people here. And then Tuesday, things were calm. It was almost like war was very distant. And then today it became very dire again. And I think certainly part of this, there was a psychological element to weaken people's spirits. So you don't know when it's going to happen. And I see that. I saw that concern talking with so many people tonight. A few hours ago, it was a very surreal moment. I stopped by the jazz club here to sort of see what the mood was. I was sitting across from the son of Ella Fitzgerald, who lives here and was singing tonight, and also with a Ukrainian colonel, and with a friend who was in prison for a year by the Russians. So I had very sort of quite real perspectives, and I got only confidence meeting with those people. But from people who've been watching the situation for years, it's the highest level of concern. And, listening to the general there, it seems almost totally negative. At the same time, I think we need, I think we really need to look more at what happened in 2014 when Ukraine was so much weaker than it was today. And a question that I have for all of our experts, which I don't have an answer for, is Russia so much stronger today than it was in 2014? Because certainly in 2014, after the weeks and months after Ukraine's Euromaidan revolution, the country was in a bit of chaos. They had a new president who had no military experience, and Russia moved in, as you can see on the map now. That yellow bit on the bottom of the map is the Crimean Peninsula. Russia took that entire peninsula in 2014, and they moved to take other territories. At the time, Ukrainian citizens with barely any military help defended their cities, the cities with more than 1 million people like Odessa, Kharkiv, and Dnipro. And so I would like to see more perspective on how this situation, what we have right now, compares to 2014. Everything I see here on the ground, I keep hearing stories of strength. I see the situation has improved in those 8 years. And so I think I do always have to ask, how much of this is a bit of psychological warfare? And then certainly for the past hours and the past weeks and months, Putin has created this image that he is this incredibly powerful guy that can control the world and can have the whole world terrified. I do think we need to ask a few more questions to see if he really is as powerful as he claims to be.
Well, I don't think anyone wants to put him to the test, given nuclear and cyber warfare at hand. But in terms of Ukraine's President Zelensky, what is he telling people in Kyiv, in Lviv, where you are tonight, in terms of the calm message he projected days ago? Now it seems his tone may be changing.
Yeah, I have seen here that his tone does affect people, especially people in the capital, in Kyiv and in Kharkiv, which is close to one of the cities that would be one of the first to be attacked. But I would say the main thing I have observed the past 2 or 3 days in this definite change of tone is and for years, all of the NGOs and the Aspen Institute and all the people that have worked in Ukraine for 8 years since the revolution, all the academics talk about Ukrainian civil society. And I've seen that come into full operation the past few days, where people, even if you can tell they're a little bit afraid, but people are ready to cooperate with each other to do whatever it takes to survive. And I don't want that to get lost in this, because it's an incredible. There's nowhere else for them to go. This is their homeland, and everyone is maneuvering to make sure they have weapons, to make sure they have ability to communicate if the internet is taken out. And even, for example, with my journalistic colleagues here, I have friends that work in IT companies that are making sure that we can still have satellite communications, for example, so I can still speak with you. And everyone is cooperating with even a bit of cheerfulness. So I don't want that to get lost. And I think that is the mode that everyone here is in now. Is we're not going to worry, but we are working swiftly to make sure we are prepared, whether it's to fight or to protect the vulnerable and those who need to be protected. That's the situation. That's where we are.
A lot of mixed messages coming out of Ukraine tonight. Joe, as always, we appreciate you taking some time to talk to us. Be safe. We'll be checking back in with you again as this situation unfolds. Joe Lindsley in Ukraine.
Thank you, Marty. And sorry for the mixed messages. That's the reality. It is. We feel like we're in. I've never seen anything like this, and as we look at this, if we could find some historical perspectives for it, And one thing I did hear, if I could say this. Look at when Hitler finally invaded France, as an expert friend was telling me, he had about a dozen false attempts. And so we need to look at more history as we experience this. But anyway, Marty, thank you so much. Yep. And we'll keep you posted.
Thanks for watching. Click the red subscribe button below so you can get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.